Okay, thank you for joining this week's Tips and Tricks webinar. Today's topic is on the management enhancements coming in R81.20. Please use the Q&A chat if you have any questions. We'll answer those during the webinar. That will get started. Our presenter today is an R&D product manager, Guy Israeli. Guy, floor is yours.
Thank you, Robert. Good morning, everyone. Let me just share my screen. So in today's session, I'm going to focus on the management capabilities that we added as part of R81.20, and feel free to ask a question. And by the way, I hope that we will be able to GA R81.20 next week. Okay, so this is the target. So let's start. So first, I would like to start with feature that will help our customers to have a better security or to achieve a better security. And the first feature is related to adding change control management to the management. It's built in part of the management. It's called SmartWorkflow. In R7070, we used to add this capability, and now we are adding it back to the management. Some people call it a 4I principle, others call it peer review. But in any way, the bottom line that with this functionality is going to help our customer to make sure that they are pushing error-free policies. And basically, in order to achieve that, we added two new functionalities or two new checkboxes to the administrator permission profile on the management. The first one is for administrator that cannot publish a session, and the second one is for administrator that can approve other administrator sessions. So you can think of it like providing the option to create two administrator groups. The first one, you can call them submitters. And in those groups, you will put the administrator that you don't want to give them the permission to make changes. And the other is approver, which can approve other people, other administrators changes or sessions. And one use case that can be useful for that is maybe there is a new member in the team, is less familiar with the internal networking, the topology, maybe less familiar with the company security policy. And before providing him full capability to push policies to the gateways, the team want to make sure that he knows what he's doing. So this new engineer in the team is going to be added to the submitter group. And he will be able to make changes to the policy, but is not going to be able to publish them. So instead of the publish button, is going to have a submit for a request for a submit for approval. And he will be able to add some comment around that, what was exactly the change that he was doing. And once he pressing the submit button, the session is going to go back to the normal. So he be able to keep making more changes to the policy. So he's not like waiting for the approval without doing anything. And one of the administrators that related to the approver group are going to get an email notification saying that, telling them that there is a pending a session for their approval. If they are already connected to the Smart Console, they are going to get notification that there is such session that waiting for the approval. And then they can use the change report, which we introduced as part of R81 to review the exact changes. And then they can approve the session, or they can decide to reject it and to return it to the submitter with a few comments about what are the extra changes that are needed. And they also have the option to take over the session if they want to make the changes very quickly and to push the policy. And actually, I created a very short video that actually explaining what I just showed you. So first of all, creating the group. So first creating the approvers and adding the relevant administrator to this group. And then I'm creating the submitter, and I remove the button. Maybe it was too quickly, but remove the button of allowing to make changes. So now the submitter, Davis, the submitter, is creating changes, and now we can request for approval. And this session is pending to be approved, so it's not published. And now Karen, which is approver, is connecting to the Smart Console. You will see she's getting notification that there is pending session. Then she can review the session with the change report to understand what were the exact changes that were done by Dave on the session. And then the session is approved. And the session was automatically published. Okay, so moving to the next topic. So this actually was something that customer requested us for a very long time to allow single sign-on and multi-factor authentication when connecting to the Smart Console. And now we added this capability as part of R81.20 as we are now integrating with SAML identity providers. So for customers that using or working with identity providers such as Okta and Ping Identity, will be able to enjoy this functionality and to start using the Smart Console with connecting with multi-factor authentication and single sign-on. Now, I would like to talk about new capabilities that we've added to the management, which actually increase the management operational efficiency. And the first one, in my opinion, is very cool capability. And when talking with customer, in many cases, they are telling me that one of their challenges is the fact that they cannot respond quickly to their end user request. And this is mainly because in many organizations, they cannot publish or push policies whenever they like. They have very strict window of when they can push the policy. In many cases, it can be done only off hours. And now we are adding a new object to the management, which is called a network feed. And the network feed is actually pointing to a URL which holding a file. And the file can be containing IP addresses or domain or both. And once you create this network feed object, you can place it in the source or the destination of the access policy. And then you can install the policy on the gateways. Once you install the policy on the gateway is going to connect to the URL that you provided. And it's going to pull and update a copy of this file. And it's going to do it in like some periodical interval that you can set. It can be 1 minute, it can be 1 hour, whatever you decide. And think of it like if you have, if you need to block specific IP very quickly, you just need to update this file, and the gateway will start enforcing it immediately instead of updating the policy or pushing the policy. And you can think of many different use cases. Like, as I said, it can be blacklist, it can be whitelist. Each customer can find different usage for that. And actually, I prepared also a very short video for this as well, just to show you how easy and simple it is to use this network feed. So in this case, I wanted to block access or to accept access to a specific site, in this case, Facebook. So I'm adding the Facebook to my file. And now I'm creating the network feed object. So I'm just putting the URL that I created, and I'm setting the pulling interval to 1 minute. And I can also testing the feed before pushing it. So I'm just making sure that it's pulling the right domains that I created. And then I can set the policy and I'm good to go. So it's something that you can do in 2 minutes, very simple. And now every time that I'm going to update the file with additional domains, so it's going to enforce it immediately. So it's super cool feature, which can help customer to add more automation to the daily work. Okay, so the next feature is relevant for customer that working in hybrid environment, meaning that some of their deployment is in the on-prem and part of the on-prem and part of the deployment is moved to the cloud. And they need to connect both environments, the on-prem and the cloud over the public internet. And for that, they need to establish a VPN tunnel. And before R81.20, it was like very long and complex procedure to create this VPN connectivity between Checkpoint and the cloud third party. Actually, it was around 25 steps and needed to be configured in 3 places on the Checkpoint side, the Smart Console, the Clish, and the Gaia Web UI. And now we simplify this process, and now it's configured only from the Smart Console. It's very short and few steps, and making it much easier to configure this VPN connectivity. So it's also going to be very useful for customers that will use it. When we started, when the COVID started and people moved to work remotely, mainly remotely, it created some challenges for the organization, because most of the customer used to use hub mode and to route the user traffic through the corporate network and only from there to go to the internet. And this has created some challenge when working with some SaaS application, for example, Office 365. And actually, many SaaS applications actually recommended to the customer to use direct access instead of working in hub mode to get a better performance or optimized performance. And in Checkpoint till R81.20, it was a bit a challenge, because those SaaS applications actually have dynamic IPs, so they keep changing. And it was like a very tedious way for the administrator to keep updating that and to create exception for the remote access user when they connect to those applications to go directly and not through the corporate network. And what we added now in part of R81.20 is the option to use Checkpoint updatable object to be used in the remote access VPN exception. So now it means that it can be done very easily, because Checkpoint is keep maintaining all these special application, and every time that the IP is going to be changed, we are going to update it for our customers. So now it's very easy for customers to use this configuration and to provide their customers to have direct access to those SaaS applications. And the last thing that I want to mention or to talk about is our management as a service in the cloud, SmartOne Cloud. And SmartOne Cloud is actually providing our customer always to run on the latest version. So as I said, we're planning to release R81.20 next week in GA, and also next week we will start deploying new customer in SmartOne Cloud running already in R81.20. So it's super cool. Customer can always enjoy the latest version. There is no need for them to do any kind of maintenance, backup, to install anything. Everything is being done by the service, so it's reducing the operational cost. It's also providing 99.9% of availability, so there is no need to purchase any HA solution. And for MSSP partners, so this is a great platform to create a multi-tenancy between different customer. It's very easy to switch between the different customers to have a single view of all customers together. So I think it's very recommended platform, and we have 1 month of free trial, so everyone can try it and to get his own experience and to see how simple it is. And by the way, we also integrating a new web UI capabilities to be part of the SmartOne Cloud. So it's very easy also to edit the policy. There is no need to use any desktop client or things like that. And I think that's it.
Great. Thank you, Guy. I have some questions for you. Of course, the first one was, when's R81.20 coming out? But like you said, hopefully next week, correct?
Yeah, so actually we are now fixing the last few bugs, okay, and we don't want to compromise. We want to release in the highest possible quality, and we will take the time to fix, those bugs. And currently it's targeted for next week, but if we will find additional issues, so we will take the time and fix them. We are deploying in many customer environment as part of our EA program. It's been installed in production. Also in Checkpoint, we're installing in production for many months now. So we keep getting more and more feedback, from those customers every day. And only once we will feel that we are in the best quality, only then we are going to release it.
Okay. The features that you highlighted here, can you still use those features if you're managing lower gateway versions than R81.20?
So some of the features that are, related only to the management. So of course, so for example, the SmartWorkflow, it's pure management feature. You can use it also in previous gateway. The network feed required that the gateway also be in R81.20, because this is also new mechanism for the gateway.
Okay.
But I think most of the stuff are only on the management. So I think this is the only feature that require also to have R81.20 gateway.
Okay. When you were discussing the policy change review, can you also get out of band notification, either an email or a text notification that you have a pending review?
Yeah, so actually it can be achieved. We added this capability to SmartTask. Okay, so SmartTask is a new capability that we added as part of R81 to make it easier to our customer to automate some daily operations. And now in R81.20, we added this capability of SmartTask. So now it be very easy to configure that there is some action and response. So the action is that there is pending policy, and then the response is to send an email. Okay, but for that also need to configure an email server, but it's very simple. It's going to be documented, and if customer would like to receive an email notification for every session that is waiting for his approval, it's very easy to achieve that.
Great. The network feed object, speaking of that, is there a recommendation to host the URL or the file that you're referencing? Like, do you have it on the management server? Is it something internal? Is there any recommendation for the file location?
So it's not on the management, and you can think of it that it might be that the management is not always running. Okay, so if the management is not up, it means that the gateway will not be able to pull an update file. So it's of course recommended to put it in some secure location in some internal web server. In my example, that I use some public service but it was just for the example. But it means that the customer need to make sure that this web server is always up and running, because you don't want that once this server is going to be done, the gateway will not be able to get an update copy of the file. But it's up to the customer to decide where exactly to locate it.
What would the behavior be if the file was not retrievable? Say the site was down. Would the rule just default to deny, or?
Yeah, so assume that you already was able to pull the file at the first time. So we keep enforcing what was in the original file. Okay, and now let's say that the server is down, so nothing will get changed. And also, if for example, you are putting like 5,000 entries, and you are making some, syntax error, and you're typing mistakenly one of the IP addresses in this file. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to skip, this entry and to continue to the rest of them. But we're going to generate a log saying that we are unable to pull the entire list and there is probably some mistake. So the user will be able to review the file again and to fix the wrong IP. So in the next pulling, we are going to take this new updated IP and to start enforcing it.
Great. Got one more here on SmartOne Cloud you mentioned at the end there. Can you use SmartOne Cloud as a backup to your on-prem management?
So
Like a secondary
no.
management server?
Yeah, so for that, I'm just trying to understand what is the use case, because customers that will move to SmartOne Cloud are actually moving to SaaS service. Okay, so they need to rely on the SaaS that will provide them, 99.9% of availability, create all the necessary backups to make sure that everything is, not harmed, even if there is some catastrophe. And I'm just curious to understand what is the use case that customer will try to achieve with having the management, the on-prem management to BHA to the cloud. And think of it, so it's something that also technically it's almost impossible for us to achieve, because for the management HA to work, we need to have both members to be in the same version, the same Jumbo. And for the cloud, we are keep updating to the latest. So we need also that the HA member will be also on the same version. And with that, it actually means that we cannot provide full service to this customer.
Okay, yeah, I'll take that one offline with who asked and get more details. Maybe I can reach out to you offline.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yep. Is there anything else? No, I think we're good. So thank you, Guy, for the information. Great session. I'll send a follow-up email with any reference content and recording link to this session. Our next webinar will not be in 2 weeks. We have a conflict next week, so just keep your eye out for the next session. With the holidays coming up, things may push, but I'll send it out as soon as I get that firmed up for you guys. But with that, we'll let you go. Guy, thanks again, and we'll see you here next time. Enjoy your day, everyone. Bye.